All right, welcome to the Two Sons Podcast. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope all of you guys had an incredible week. It's been a few weeks since you and I have done a record.
Yeah,
it's been
man.
like 3 weeks, I think.
I
since
know.
we've done a record.
You've been busy. I've been busy.
I have to start. We're going to open up today with just an absolute roasting of Luke.
Dude, you said this was going to happen. I'm ready. You can F off, Jay.
So the little backstory here is I've been, Luke is a big Star Wars fan. I'm a big Star Wars fan. And I don't blame you for this necessarily because of the fact
I'm so excited right now.
Luke is a very, very hardworking doctor and also a father. You are also very, very socially involved with your family. Your parents your dad just moved to town. Your mom's going to be joining after the school year.
Continue.
Busy guy. Okay.
Very.
So I understand. I understand that you don't have a ton of time for in-depth TV series.
Yes.
And before we go any further, I want to cut you some slack. You did make time for the Rings of Power 2 years ago.
Loved it.
And you did make time for House of the Dragon,
yes.
to your credit.
I know what you're about to say.
But I've been begging Luke, like, hey, dude, like, gotta watch Game of Thrones. Won't do it. Hey, dude, Last of Us, major, like, culturally resonant show. Gotta watch it.
Pass.
Won't do it. And he just won't watch these shows. And so but like then obviously like if Star Wars show comes around, he'll make time for it because obviously it's Star Wars and
it's Star Wars. I mean, yeah.
But like, and I do think like when House of the Dragon and stuff comes back and Rings of Power, I think you'll be around for season
100%.
Because you're already invested at this point. But like Luke texted me the other day, and he's like,
out of the blue,
bro, you gotta watch Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's great. We got to talk about it on the pod. It's going to be great.
Yep.
Of course, I literally read it. I'm like, this motherfucker.
And you're like, with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, like, what the are we talking about?
So I had heard some mentions of this show.
It's definitely not super well known. I mean, it's obviously well known, but I mean, it's not like people are talking about it around the cooler.
It's not as culturally resonant as some of the other big shows that we've talked about. But for the record, like, it's all relative because it's in the first season, right?
Yes.
And that's a big part of it.
True.
But we've now watched 2 episodes each. That was the funniest part too. So like last night I'm sitting down and I'm going to watch episode 2 because I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about it on Friday. And oh no, actually I babysitted your son.
Oh yeah. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, you were working to serving the community with high quality medical care. Mm-hmm. I was playing catch with your 11-month-old son.
Yes.
And which was also a blast. And
I call it J-ball, the game that you guys were playing, where like he like throws the ball kind of near you, and then you throw it to him. I call it J-ball.
He's an infant, so like when he's trying to throw, he's kind of just like making this like really expressive sound. He's like,
yeah.
And the ball just kind of goes in a random direction.
So funny.
But I found out from your wife that day that you had only watched 1 episode.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this dude is like, you got to watch this show,
dude.
But he's only watched
because I didn't want to get too far ahead of you because I wanted to talk about it on the pod and get some episodes out of it. You know what I mean? I've got two reasons for this. Number one, legitimately, we were scrolling through Amazon, figuring out what to watch, right? And then I was like, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like. That looks really cool. I love Mr. and Mrs. Smith because the Brad Pitt movie with Angelina Jolie.
It was a good one.
It's so good.
I barely remember what happens. But
pretty lighthearted.
Yeah.
It's one of my faves. Top, let's say 150 movies. Okay. All right. I mean, there's a lot. Dude, if you think about it, how many Star Wars movies are there? Like that's a quick like 8, like 10, whatever. Anyway, so I was like, okay, great history. We turn it on. The first scene, I'm not going to lie to you, we shut it off. After that guy got his face blown off, I was like, oh, this isn't really what I was expecting.
You turned it off after the face blowing off scene?
Yes, but we went back to it, and I knew you'd be proud of us for that.
I'm proud of you.
That's reason number 1 why we started watching it, because I thought it was going to be lighthearted, which it wasn't at all. And then number 2, Game of Thrones is like a Everest-size endeavor for us, and I feel like I'm just never going to get through it, and that's one of the reasons why I haven't started it.
So the Game of Thrones thing is really simple to me. You would absolutely love it.
I know.
It's literally that simple.
It's
you
so
would love
heavy,
it.
though.
You would love it. It's
my
heavy.
little heart.
It's heavy, dude. I was actually
after I watched stuff like this,
joking
my
about
heart
this the other
is sad.
day. Like if the United States were invaded, and like as a citizenry, we had to go to war. Mm-hmm. You are like top of the list guy that I'd want to have in the foxhole.
Dude,
with me.
thank you.
100%. 100%.
I know, the real stuff.
You are, when the shit hits the fan, you want Luke in your corner. Why can't you watch it on TV, bro?
I don't know.
I don't understand.
Dude, that's the same thing. That's the same thing. Jay, literally. Dude, it's true. It's when it's on a screen, it jacks me up. I don't know why. Dude, I literally, the other day, someone comes in and they're like, yeah, I've got an infected toenail. I was like, okay, well, like, you don't need to have it ripped off. Because that's what I tell. Everyone wants their toenail ripped off until they're having it ripped off, right?
Like, can I please have it ripped off?
Yeah. And then I'm
you
like,
rip the one next to it off?
I know. I'm like, you really don't have to do this. It's like slightly red. I'm like, we can just, treat it, conservatively. And they're like, no, I want you to rip it off. So that entails me driving a needle onto either side of this person's toe and just injecting the crud out of them with lidocaine, right? Super, super painful. Then you shove like a spaded, like flat, device literally underneath the toenail and then on the top of the toenail. And then you get what's called the nail splitter, which is essentially like these plier-looking devices. And you literally cut down the nail and rip off part of the nail. I can do that.
He gets excited about it.
No,
like he'll be like, you won't believe the gross shit I did today.
Yeah, I was like, I can do that, dude. I watched a video of it being done though, and I was like, oh, I can't do this.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm saying.
I was like literally squirming in my seat. I couldn't sit still as it was happening. I don't know why. In real life, I don't know. I can deal with it.
The thing is like, so when I say you would love it, and I've had this conversation with you before, like, and you guys who listen to the show, I'm sure can attest to this because I am certain that all of you have watched Game of Thrones. Like, and
anybody who hasn't, shout out in the comments.
Yeah, I'm Team Luke,
my brother. And
so it is a lot of the same things we loved about Star Wars, deep lore, like the job that
I love that.
The job that George R.R. Martin did building out that universe is it's like close to in scale what George Lucas has done with Star Wars, and it has like there's this similar like level of real terrifying presence of the villain too, which is something that I think Star Wars has always nailed.
Yeah,
there's like from episode 1 through episode 6, and I'm going to put a hard stop there at episode 6. There is like a pretty like consistent like that dude. It feels invincible. Palpatine through the whole thing, and everything about the dark side of the Force and the Empire and everything. Like and that's a similar feel through the White Walkers from the opening scene of Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
and so I just think you would love it. But that it's a whole other thing. I'm hoping to eventually win him over.
I'm going to watch it someday. I know.
I'm going to be honest with you too, man. Like that's content that people would enjoy.
Oh, our fans want. We've been asked to do this multiple times. Our small, humble fan base, multiple people have asked us.
Yeah, I am rewatching Game of Thrones right now with my wife. We're in season 6. It's been 3 or 4 years since we've done it. And like legitimately, it's been so enjoyable, and it's such like there is community around like Game of Thrones. You're like, remember this scene, remember this battle, remember this thing, and so I'm trying to eventually win Luke over because would just put out so many good podcast episodes breaking down the show.
It'll happen.
But regardless, the true test is on the horizon.
Can we?
Because Fallout is coming out.
Oh, dude, I'm so ready for Fallout. And
we're
Fallout
like a month and a half.
Is going to make me sad. And after every episode, I'm going to think about it way too much than I should.
Why does that zombie guy have no nose?
No, I know. I feel bad for him already. It's not even like the actual season. I don't even know who this guy is, and I feel bad for him because he has no nose, and I bet he lost his daughter.
Yeah,
it looked like he had a daughter that he lost. I'm already sad.
Yes.
You can tell I've already gotten jacked up.
She got nuked, Luke.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, she very well might be one of the bad ghouls.
Ooh,
yeah. I'm excited about Fallout, but that'll be the true test. We have a bunch of shows coming out this year. We should have House of the Dragon season 2. We have Andor season 2. We have Fallout. There's Dune 2 coming out in theaters very soon. Which, by the way, we need to watch Dune 1 and do an episode on it
for sure.
And then we'll
do that in the week before.
I think Rings of Power might be this fall, but it might also be next year. But this is going to be a big year for shows.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, like when there's downtime, that's when we need to be that's when we need to be covering like something like a Game of Thrones. Also, we had someone in the comments say like, hey, we'd really like for you guys to cover Rebels and Clone Wars, and I'd be so down.
Oh, that'd be sick.
And if we could
love Rebels and Clone Wars.
Maybe what we can do is we can find like a one of those websites that like lists all like the true canon forming
Right.
episodes where it's like, okay, here's the 3 episodes for the Battle of Geonosis. Here's like the, like,
Mm-hmm.
and we can kind of like go through
Hit the
on,
big
like,
ones.
Yeah,
the
because
ones.
I think we could get in the weeds of Rebels and where it's like a little bit waste of time.
Yeah, with Rebels and especially Clone Wars.
and
Like,
especially
let's
Clone
be real.
Wars.
Like the first episode of Clone Wars is one of the worst. Like, I watched the first episode of Clone Wars and I was like, ooh, I don't know. And then I watched the second one and I was just hooked. The first one was just a little bit, just kind of uneventful.
Wasn't the first one isn't that the one where we first meet Ahsoka? I can't even remember.
I just remember it being uneventful. I know Yoda's involved. And it's on, I can't remember what planet it is, but I just remember being like, ooh, I don't know. That's how uneventful it is. It's just like, I feel like nothing big happens. Versus like some of the other huge episodes where you're like, oh my gosh.
There's
like
some
Mortis God
yeah.
episodes.
The
like,
Mortis God. The Battle of
holy
Geonosis
cow.
is in season
Dude,
1, I'm pretty
the Battle
sure.
of Geonosis episodes are so cool.
It's like
seeing the clone troopers in that is incredible. Fighting like the sand.
It reminds me because like who's the other Jedi is it the Sarian, the Sarian, the dude with the tall head, I think is the one who leads that attack. If I remember correctly.
Coyote Mundi? No.
Yeah, Kiadi Mundi or whatever, I think. But he, like, they lay out that entire 3-episode arc almost like the way the Thrawn books do, where it's like, it's very, very tactically centered, where it's like, this is what we're doing here. This is what we're doing here.
Oh, it's so cool.
very, yeah. Whereas, like, the Battle of Geonosis Part 1 and the Clone Wars movie is really just open field combat. Like,
it is.
There's not a whole lot going on there.
Dude, and with Clone Wars, you just really get to meet a ton of really dope clones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm all, one day when we find time, we'll do it.
Game of Thrones, Clone Wars, Rebels, we'll do it all.
One of our viewers was asking about the comics, which I can't see us doing anytime super soon just because there's so much other literature to get into.
How does one go about buying a Star Wars comic? Are they like,
dude,
is
actually,
there a
I think
website?
you can buy them like audiobooks.
Do you have to go to a comic store? I don't understand.
No, I think you can buy
I've
them
never
like
bought
audiobooks. Yeah. No,
Wait, as audiobooks?
No, not as audiobooks. I meant to say like Kindle.
Okay, so there's an app.
I think there's
an app for Star Wars comics.
I think I think you can purchase them through any like large like retail book, like online bookstore.
Luke and I would like to potentially maybe try a Star Wars comic. Which one should we start with?
Like
that's
peak.
the question.
What is the peak of Star Wars comic-ry? Comet. Whether it be Legends or canon.
So, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
I'm so ready for your take.
No. We're starting with you because, like, I have to say, like, I haven't been bored watching it. That's for sure.
Yeah,
it's a weird show.
It's super weird.
I want to start with what drew you so much to the first episode, where you were like, "Dude, this is the show."
Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. I was hoping for that nostalgia, which I did not get. And then we turned on the first episode, and the first scene happens where, like, that couple is in that gunfight, and then the girl looks back at the guy who she loves. I don't know if it's her boyfriend or husband or whatever, and he's standing there with a hole in his face and then falls to the ground. And that's when we turned it off. We're like, this is depressing. This is too much. And then we couldn't find anything else to watch. So then we turned it back on. And then immediately after that, I was just super intrigued. And
by the interview scene is next.
The interview scene is really, really intriguing. And I think that's what's cool about the show is not so much now because all the episodes are released, right? But if this would have been like a weekly release, there would have been so much to talk about.
Didn't they release them in bulk?
I think they did.
I think they did, yeah.
But I wish that they didn't, because it would have been so interesting to talk about, our take for the next episode, which you and I can still do, but the world knows, right?
Yeah.
So, like, for example, like who is the company that they work for? Like, how much money are they actually making? I keep wondering to myself, are the two main characters, John and Jane, are they good people? Like, do I think that they're good people or bad people? You know what I mean? Like, who is that lady who they stole the cake from that ended up being a freaking bomb? Like, did she know that it was a bomb? Like, there's so many questions that, like, I feel like they'll answer a lot of them, but it's so fun to just navigate that as you're watching. And it's a very thought-provoking show. And that's what I've liked about it. And not only that, it's kind of visually interesting as well.
It is
like,
visually interesting.
The house that they stay in is gorgeous. Like, I love the aesthetic of that home. It's incredible. And then not only that, but I'm really enjoying the music in these episodes so far too. They have a very diverse group of like songs that they play.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only that, but they also have a lot of silence in the show. I don't know if you've noticed.
There's a lot of silence. They use it as definitely as an effect.
Yes,
There's no doubt.
Yes. So like I'm loving it. Like for example, let's ask you a question. Who do you think Cake Lady was? Like, do you think that she knew that was a bomb?
Let's start here.
Okay.
We are going based on having only seen the first 2 episodes. So
don't ruin things.
Yeah, don't be a comment asshole who
Yeah.
goes in there and ruins everything, okay? Like, we've only seen the first 2 episodes. I want to work our way through. So I want to start with the opening scene.
Okay.
The opening scene,
Oh, yeah.
presumably.
Who is this couple?
Because
who shot that guy in the face?
It's completely unconnected to everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to just give you my working theory.
Yeah, because I've got one too.
They're a previous iteration of Mr. and Mrs. Smith,
I
who
totally agree.
experienced their 3 failures
Totally
that they're allowed
agree
to
with
have,
you.
and now
Yep.
the company pursues them from place to place until eventually they stand and fight. and die.
100% agree. And they were linked together. They didn't know each other beforehand. They fell in love because they saw some crazy stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
And then they fell in love and then tried to leave and then they got hunted down. I feel like the sniper who shot the guy is the chick that we know.
No, there's no way.
I totally think
There's
it is.
literally no way.
Why do you think? Why?
Why would she agree to become the next chick who just got sniped in the chest after she sniped the chick in the chest?
Oh, no. I think that this is like them in the future. I think that was like a future. I think that didn't 100% line up in the same timeline as what we're seeing
I agree,
now.
but I thought it
Yeah.
was in the past.
In the past.
I
think
thought they
it
were
could have
hinting
been-
at like, oh, we killed our Mr. and Mrs.
Oh.
Smith. We need another Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
And it very well could be, but who's the sniper?
Just some people who work for the company. They
Are
had
they
more than just the
other-
one sniper. They had a bunch of people.
Are they other Mr. and Mrs. Smith-I?
Well, I'm assuming this assassin company has more than one group of assassins.
And that's why I wanted to do this show, because it's freaking interesting, right? Like, this is exactly why I wanted to do it. Yeah, so I don't know, but I think you're right. I think they had 3 failures, and then their time was up, and then they knew it. And then, of course,
Clearly they ran a few times.
Yeah, of course, as you go through these missions, you do end up getting some skills. And then we know that the current Mr. and Mrs. Smith that we know of do have legitimate skills. Like Donald Glover's character has killed 13 people already. That's
12 on purpose.
really interesting. Yeah. And then there's other thought-provoking questions. Who's the other one? Like, who's the outlier?
I'm sure we'll find out.
Yeah, why don't they care about their relationships with their family anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of that, dude. It's so interesting.
So the next part that I wanted to get into was in my opinion, what the theme of the show is. Because there is some action. Like, there was obviously the cake scene where they chase the lady and then they deliver it and it blows up.
Yeah.
There was in the second episode, the very, very weird dog role-playing scene that literally I watched episode 1 with Carly, and so when anything weird would happen, I'd have someone to look over and talk
Lane
shit
and I
to.
were constantly like, this is super
Dude,
weird.
and I couldn't talk to you because I didn't want to ruin it for the podcast.
Yeah.
So I'm looking around the room by myself because my wife is skiing with one of her best friends in Flagstaff this weekend. Or she actually gets home here in about an hour and a half. But I was literally just looking around and I'm like, oh man, I'm watching this by myself. I want to talk
know.
shit. But so there's the really weird dog role playing scene leading into the truth serum in the over,
Which was so
super
funny.
interesting. And I want to get to that because
Okay.
I want to go through those 2 scenes. But to me, the theme of the show, the purpose of the show, I think because if you think of it like an elevator pitch,
Okay.
everything has an elevator pitch.
Right.
I would argue the elevator pitch of this show, it's the most important thing is it's just you and me are friends and we hang out.
Yeah.
Like that.
Oh,
we hang
this,
out on the show.
This show.
not
Mr.
yeah,
Smith.
and
You're talking Two
typically
Sons.
we're going to talk about things that we're passionate about. That's
Yeah.
going to include our jobs. That's going to include Star Wars. That's going to
Sure.
include other content that kind of falls in line with that. But that's the elevator pitch. We just went over Two Sons podcast in 15 seconds.
Yeah.
The elevator pitch to Mr. and Mrs. Smith to me is a look at the dynamic of 2 assassins being married, but primarily through the lens of actually watching 2 deeply troubled,
Yes.
professional killers both of which are not at all trying to be attached to their past at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
They
For sure.
and then like coming into this situation where they're spending time with each other and like navigating the personality dynamics of being, because like they're automatically distrustful, but at the same time lonely.
Yes.
You know, they both there is a certain moral gray area.
Mm-hmm.
They also clearly have skill sets that they bring to the table. So like I think interestingly enough, like the assassin stuff is almost secondary in the show to the personality dynamic between the two main characters.
I 100% agree. That is an awesome take. And for whatever it's worth, like if you look at the first scene of a show as like the original sales pitch, I got off that elevator, but then I got forced back in, and then I was hooked. So like envision, someone
he was like, I can't watch this. The first scene's too bad. It's like, well, we could watch Game of Thrones. Fuck it.
We'll go back. Anything other than Game of Thrones. No, but so the first episode happens, and I was hooked. Like you legitimately want to know what happens to this couple, whether or not they fall in love, if they survive this. It's like, and then you think of questions yourself. Like, I don't know if you do this when you watch shows like this. You're like, if I had to do something like this, could I? Not that I want to, not that I want to give cake bombs to people, and blow them up. But like if you were stuck in a situation like this, like how would you react in that? Like, could you do this? Could you not do that? Like, it's really interesting. Like, it's super bizarro.
I one of the big things that stood out is, from the standpoint of that job, and they captured this really in the chase scene. But like, there's just, and really through most of the first two episodes, there's just so much like improvisational planning.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like, okay, this lady's running, let's do this. Or like when Donald Glover's character like randomly just attacks that street vendor.
Yes.
Or like when he was like, oh shit, like this bougie ass like auction, they're not going to trust a black dude here, so I'm just going to pretend to be
he's like, I'm going to be like one of 4 black guys there, and then
and like that's improvisational, like
it's
type
cool.
of thinking, or like them being like, okay, well, like maybe we'll offer to do weird sex stuff for this guy, and then that'll allow us to get him alone. So they had to get this dude alone for their second mission, and they had to inject him with truth serum. And then record everything he says. That was basically the mission. But there had to be no witnesses, and so the only way they were going to get him alone was like literally the chick just goes like, how about we grab that like bellhop over there, or we go grab that busser over there, and we just take him into the back and do whatever we want with him. And then the dude, of course, the rich dude's like, "Fuck yeah, let's go."
Yeah, that sounds interesting. That's the only interesting thing here, dude. So maybe there was a plot hole, and maybe there wasn't. And tell me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like for episode 2, they made it a little bit more complicated than it actually needed to be. For example, like if their goal was to inject that specific dude with truth serum, why did they have to do the whole entire like Andy Warhol like auction thing? Like their clue was find the person who bids the highest on the Andy Warhol auction like picture. I forget what the name of it is. It's a real picture, I think.
Oh, really?
And then that's your guy. Why didn't they just say, hey, this is your guy, do the truth serum? Did I miss something there?
So I
feel like that was just something to make it way more interesting and make it more espionage.
Almost like because like in theory they could have just been like, this dude is going to be there.
Yeah,
do it to him,
and that would have been boring.
It could. It's hard to say though, because it could very well have been like one of those things where the target. The actual targeter, the person who paid for the hit, might very well have been like unaware of who it was, but they knew this person was going to buy this. Like, we don't know. I wouldn't call it a plot hole. I would just call it like a unexplained phenomenon. But for the record, like, the first mission was like that too. So like the first mission, they're like, you got to steal this package from this lady and you're going to deliver it to this place. And it turns out to be this like random like elderly lady who's running around with a cake. We think is a cake. And then like literally they're like, they steal the cake and they bring it to this other like rich white lady's house.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, are they like, did this person just pay like secret agents to steal a cake?
I know.
What? Like, this is so bizarre.
And then they're bummed too. They're like,
Yeah.
did we just steal a cake and
yeah,
drop
they're
off a cake?
even they're like, oh gosh, like, but they also hint pretty heavily at the beginning, like that these two are kind of on their last dregs in terms of like ability to find jobs, and so like they kind of seem like at peace with it in the sense like I guess we're stealing cakes from random old ladies now and giving them to these random ass rich people, and then the cake blows up and kills presumably all the people in this house,
Probably like in a family.
And, yeah, which I immediately was like, oh, the company clearly intended for Mr. and Mrs. Smith to die in this blast.
Oh, I see.
And I thought it was going to end pretty quickly between them and the company, and then it turns out it was like, oh, it's high risk. Like, this is going to be something that we have to potentially deal with, blowing up. But
Right.
but yeah, like the two missions are kind of bizarre in the sense that like we don't really understand like what the ultimate goal is. They're not connected, so they do end up giving truth serum to this guy. Which,
Yes.
And so he basically
Well, and how they did it was super funny. Because and it was going to get botched, right? Because in the setup, Hi or whoever that is, we don't know who Hi is. And
Hi is the person they text with, yeah.
or like emails or whatever.
yeah.
Like, it's like direct messaging. It's
I am.
So, anyways, he's like, do not do a second dose of the truth serum. It's like, well, they're gonna get 2 doses. Like we know that right off the bat. So then how it's going down is super funny because like it's super odd. Don't get me wrong, but the guy, the rich guy, is like, all right, I want you guys to pretend like you're dogs and then meet each other for the first time. So what do dogs do? They sniff each other's butts,
yeah.
right? So like, Donald Glover and Maya Erskine's, I think that's how you pronounce her name. They're like on all fours and like looking at each other, like kind of giggling. And he's like, take it seriously. So they start like sniffing each other, And then he's all of a sudden in the mix.
Yeah, then he gets down on all fours. I'm literally looking around my room. I'm
Dude,
like,
I know.
oh my gosh,
And
what
then,
am I watching?
Well, and you told me too. You're like, dude, it's kind of a weird episode. I was like, all right, like I don't know what that means, but. And then I'm watching that scene, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, this is the weird episode part. I hope."
Yeah. Because if it
if
gets
there's
worse
something
than that,
then I'm out. Yeah. So then they kind of give each other the look, and each one of them thinks, "Okay, I'll inject him as soon as we break." And then they say break, and then they both inject him, and then it's chaos. He literally stands up, and he's kind of like a drunken wild guy at that point, and then he walks into a crowd full of people. And it's just absolute chaos.
He walks into the auction and basically just confesses all of the bad shit that he does, and like basically takes a bunch of the other rich people and throws them under the bus.
Yes.
They record the whole thing. Multiple people record the whole thing. Like it's just a complete disaster. And then they take him away and he just dies because he got double dosed.
He dies in their house. And then this is another intense part. They have to break his arms and legs to get him into a compactor.
I died laughing at that scene. It was such a random thing I was not expecting. They take his body into the bathtub and they're like you because they want to fit him into the composter, and they're like she's like, well, he's like, you break the legs, I'll break the arms, and she's like, okay, and they're like, so they kind of look at each other, and then he's like, on the count of 3, and they're like 1, 2, 3. They both snap the bones, and like literally
Gross.
both of them start dry heaving. They're like,
it's so gross. And then she's getting mad at him because he's gonna throw up, and she's like, if you throw up,
I'm gonna throw up. I
then-
was dying laughing at that scene. That scene got me. That was funny.
No, and there are some really funny things. Like the humor is really dark. Like very, very dark, and but it's all just super interesting and very thought provoking. And then they throw in stuff all the time, it seems like, in order to make you think even more. Like all of a sudden, Jane's character starts to get questioned by their neighbor, who's very interested in what they do, and like the fact that like they have a cat, and then she denies that they have a cat.
The neighbor guy is going to become a pain in the butt, and if I'm not mistaken, the neighbor guy was the same guy from the recent Batman movie who played the villain.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
Which is like I always think it's fascinating when you see an actor like that. It's like you know who I look like is a creepy motherfucker.
Is a bad dude. No, seriously.
I'm gonna keep putting my name in the hat for like you need someone who looks like a creep. I can do that.
That's real talk. Who's the guy that plays the main Nazi for Inglourious Bastards? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh God, I'm blanking on his name. It's like
I forget his name
I
too,
can't think of his name,
but
I
he
love that
also
dude.
he's such a good actor, but he's also the bad guy for one of the 007 movies, right? Like he just looks like a creepy dude, a very sophisticated creepy dude.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But that was one of the things
he plays
that
a good guy in Django Unchained.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he does, huh? That's true.
He's the guy who basically like frees. Yeah, he like rescues Django from a chain gang, and then like they go around they become bounty hunters. Remember,
Just
that's like
best friends.
Yeah, best friends that anybody could have.
Yeah. But that's what was interesting about what's his name, John Turturro. Torturo.
Mm-hmm.
Is normally I'm used to him being like kind of like funny in films.
He's
and then
funny. I thought he was funny in that episode.
I thought he was a funny guy. Yeah, that's true. And then all of a sudden he's kind of like
when he's
weird...
like messing with the busser's like tie for like 10 seconds. And the guy's just looking back at him.
He's like, that was weird.
What are you doing,
yeah.
bro?
No, and so that was interesting to see him play a different role. I've got a question for you. Do you think the two main characters, Jane and John, are good people? Like, would you like? I know that's a very subjective question, right? And that's intentional. But like, would you say that they're good people or bad people? Because I have like a legit.
Well, we're guessing because we don't necessarily have any information on it.
True.
I would say that they're both firmly in the gray. Like good people that chose a certain career path that caused them to do a lot of nasty things, and now they both kind of seem to lack a little bit of self-esteem too.
True, they do. It's so interesting.
Yeah, they're I find them to be interesting characters. I do.
Oh, for sure, very interesting. Right now, I'm firmly in the bad category. As soon as you start to kill people for money that you don't know if they're good or bad, I think that makes you a pretty sketchy individual.
So.
Because they're assuming the company is good, and obviously the company's bad.
They're laying it out like
good and bad is very subjective. I get that,
of course.
Yeah,
but like, I think. So, for instance, like, let's say that you are military special forces and you've killed 50 people in your life.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, like some of it is like your profession is your profession. They kind of hint at it with the chick, Mrs. Smith, when he's like, oh, like, let me guess, you're like former CIA or something like that. She's like something like that.
Yeah.
Like it could be as simple like she started CIA, had a desk job, then all of a sudden she got this other opportunity. All of a sudden they put a gun in her hand. All of a sudden she's doing this. Now she's taking on higher leverage missions. And then maybe she messed up, or maybe there was some sort of falling out, or blah blah blah. Like that's what I mean by gray area. Like I think it is possible for a good person to get swept up into something that has some bad stuff attached.
Well, so Cassian Andor is a really good example. Like he's fighting for this noble cause, the rebellion, right? And then he has to like kill
killed a good dude, shot a dude in the stomach,
right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like that's a good take. I agree with that. Like if they were both walking next to, I don't know, a kid that was lost, I feel like they'd probably like help the kid. You know what I mean? But then all of a sudden they're murdering people for money. It's super, and that's one of the intriguing parts of the show. Is like, who are these people? Like, why are they doing this?
They both strike me as like profoundly pessimistic too, just in general. Like they're like down on their luck. Like I feel like some of you can imagine if you were in that line of work, you would know too much. In the sense that like
that's a good point too.
Know that like all these rich people are doing all this super sketchy, immoral stuff. That this country's doing this, that country's doing that. Like your government's doing this sketchy stuff, and like you like I feel like you just know too much, and you become super pessimistic about everything going on in the world. And
probably
then,
so.
I think in general you just take on a very negative vibe.
You probably do. Like I would never want to be the president of the United States. I don't want to know the secrets of the world. Like hard pass.
You and I have talked about this before, but like even with our buddies Marcus and Sean, like who work for the fire department, they're both paramedics. It's like I don't like seeing some of the stuff that they've had to see. Like I can't imagine
horrendous.
just like going back to just living a normal life.
Well, dude, it's crazy to me. Even your brother, he's a cop, right? And so I'm talking to him at your Super Bowl party, and my dad's with us, who just moved to Tucson, and Dad's like, yeah, I just moved to Tucson. And Matt's like, why did you move to Tucson?
My brother hates Tucson. It drives me crazy.
And I had to explain to my dad, I'm like, this is Matt, is Jason's brother. He sees the worst of the worst in Tucson. He's a cop.
I literally have to give him crap all the time because like we'll be because my brother's obsessed with Texas and he wants to move to Texas. And don't get me wrong, I like Texas. Most of my extended family's out in Texas. I go out there usually about once a year, if not more. Texas is a special place to me too, but like Tucson is amazing. And
Tucson's great.
Like literally like Texas, it gets super hot in the summers and super cold in the winters. The
And
entire
very
state froze
humid,
over
too.
2 winters in a row.
Yeah.
It's humid as hell. The flies bite you out there. It's like it's super flat. There's not
Yeah.
much to look at. The traffic in the town is awful. Like there's a lot of stuff to like about Texas, but like my brother, his specific thing with Tucson is like he thinks that it's too hot.
Which it's not. Like when it's 113, you know what you do? You get to have a pool party
Yeah.
and hang out with your friends and float around in a pool all day.
I've lived in North Carolina. I've lived in Utah. I've lived in Phoenix. I've spent a ton of time in California. I've spent a ton of time in Texas. Like Tucson has amazing weather, like literally amazing weather. It like we get rain, but we don't get a lot of it.
And when it does come, it's gorgeous.
And when
in
it
the
comes,
season.
it's gorgeous. We have beautiful sunsets. Our mountains are stunning. It's dry, so the heat is more
The
manageable.
Sonoran Desert.
We get the Sonoran Desert's beautiful.
Incredible.
We have 8 months a year of like incredible weather.
Right.
Basically from October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. It's like really nice. It's like June, July, August, September suck.
Jason
or
and I
like
are
more
both-
like the second half of May and the first half of September.
Yeah.
Like that 4 month period, it's hot. But then you know what
Sure.
you do? You drink, you put a lime in your Corona and
Hell
you sit in your
yeah.
damn pool, man.
Yes,
or you go to your
sir.
buddy's house who has a pool.
Yeah, and you know what also we have? Air conditioning.
Yes.
That's nice too.
Everyone here
Yeah.
has a working air conditioner.
Yeah,
We work hard.
that's great.
Like, yeah.
They take air conditioning so seriously here that if you call an AC company and if you tell them I do not have AC that works, they will send someone to your house so fast. One of their
Yeah.
questions is, do you have another AC unit that's working? And then they ask, do you have a portable AC unit? And if you don't, then they will literally send someone to your house.
Yeah.
Like it's like standard, which you know might be standard other places too, but they like know what questions to ask. Like when we were short an AC, that was the first question they asked me.
Yeah, I don't know how we got on to the Texas Tucson debate, but I
Yeah.
definitely feel very, and that's the thing. Like, if my brother was like, I want to move to Texas just because I want to move to Texas, I'd be like, I'm on board, man.
Yeah.
But like, it's the anti-Tucson sentiment. I said, and by the way, this is not shit that I don't say to his face. I say this to him all the time. I'm like, we'll literally be driving around Texas, and my brother will be like, look, there's a body of water. There's no bodies of water in Tucson. And
like, yeah,
I'm
there
like,
are.
I sat outside on Grandma's patio yesterday and got eaten alive by flies.
that
How's
was
that?
fun. Yeah, seriously. No, how did we get stuck on this topic?
You had mentioned your dad. We were talking about
the
my
dirty
brother was a
secrets.
cop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was the dirty secrets of like how in certain professions you understand more things than you wish you did.
Yeah, exactly. And that I to bring it back around, that's kind of my thing. Is like I find them to be gray area people. Like they're like I think like a lot of times we overreact to like pleasantries and stuff when it comes, or like a aura about a person when it comes to like trying to decide like what quality of person they are. It's your actions through and through.
Yeah.
And like at the end of the day, like you can be a pessimistic, negative person just because you work a really, really tough job. That doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. It just means it's hard for you to be in a good mood.
Dude,
all the
I
time.
agree. I
Like,
totally agree. Can you imagine working like not it's not like TSA, but like the real TSA who are talking to major drug dealers? Can you imagine if you just go into like the interview room and you're like, "Hey, like how's your day going dealing massive amounts of cocaine?"
Yeah, like it's not that kind of.
Are you having a good day? Can I get you some coffee? It's like, no, you got to go in there like you got to go in there stone cold, man.
To the Mr. Smith point, it's like you go home after and it's like, all right, mission was a success. I did have to tackle a street vendor though and cuss him out in front of his buddies. Like, like that's
that was
tough.
fun. Ruined that guy's day.
Yeah.
That does suck. You're right. Someone's got to do it. But does someone have to do it in their case? That's what I'm getting to. Is like, is the company good? Probably not. I feel like it's another rich person that's just trying to like manipulate the market for their own.
What if that's just their way to earn money though?
Jason, there's certain things that you shouldn't do to earn money. I think that
they were
is said without a question.
They were expressly asked not to kill anybody in the second deal. In the first deal, they didn't even know they were killing anybody.
Okay. Yeah. True. Yeah. Actually, yeah. The company's probably great.
Yeah. As it turns out, Jason's pro-assassin,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Luke is
Very
anti-assassin.
pro. Very pro. Jason also had a take one time, and he said Palpatine wasn't evil, and I'm still trying to figure that one
He
out.
wasn't evil. He's not evil.
All right, we'll save
His
it.
religion is different than the Jedi's religion.
We'll save it for
The way
another
he
pod.
sees it, the Sith are better to run the galaxy.
And for objective reasons, in a lot of ways, they are.
The way the
nobody's
Sith,
having fun.
the Sith don't
under
hate
the
the
Sith
Jedi
rule.
because they're nice to people. They hate the Jedi because they think they're destroying the galaxy by being too nice to people.
True, but is that just a big lie that he's telling to himself? Anyways, we'll save it
Well,
for
of
another
course,
pod.
I'm not saying. I'm saying
Jason,
that
Palpatine is evil. I don't have to have a follow-up statement on that. His worldview is evil, I should say.
okay. I'm not saying that Palpatine's not evil. What I'm saying is I don't think Palpatine is like a dude who's just like putting a magnifying glass on ants. Like
for fun.
Yeah,
no,
like
I agree.
he is evil with a purpose.
Yeah.
And his purpose he believes is benevolent in the sense that like it's about bringing balance to the correct side of the Force and obviously inflicting a certain leadership style on the galaxy that he thinks is better.
Y'all hear how Jay was like the correct side of the Force? Like Jason's pro dark side.
His correct side. His correct side.
Did I get it? This
Every
is how-
time I watch episode 3, I'm like, don't do it, Anakin.
I know. This is how Bane comes about because Bane just figured that the dark side was the best way to get stuff done. And in a lot of ways, it is.
Yes.
It totally is. But if I lived in the Star Wars universe, I can assure you I would like it if the Jedi were in charge, not the Sith.
I agree.
Oh,
for the
okay.
record,
That's
if
weird.
I was running the galaxy,
That's super weird that you
I
agree
think
with
the
that.
Jedi have a clearly better path than the Sith do.
Good.
Luke's over
Good
here
man.
misrepresenting my take. We are going to cover Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
I got to get Carly to watch episode 2.
I've
and
got to
then
get
we'll
Elena to
going.
watch it too.
Let's just plan on like a week from now doing like episodes 3 and 4.
Cool.
Does that work for
Yeah,
you?
sounds good, man.
All right, guys, that is all we have for today. As always, we sincerely appreciate you supporting the show. We will see you guys in about a week.
Also, send us some mailbag questions, and it can be any random topic. And if it seems good, we'll do a take on it.
Yeah, more mailbag questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Bye, guys.